Montreal comedy bomb. After about 5 years of doing stand-up pretty regularly around Los Angeles and opening for other comics on the road, I was offered my very first spot at the Just for Laughs Montreal Comedy Festival. This festival was the industry standard for an up-and-coming comic, signaling that you were on your way to big things. It also meant that you would be seen by everyone in the industry who could hire you. Once I arrived in Montreal, it became clear through my manager at the time that there was a buzz about me and my showcase. Everyone would be there. It would be standing room only. And every person in the audience would be someone who could make a decision about putting me on television. I felt like everything I had come to Los Angeles for was about to come together, and that I finally would be recognized for my value in the industry. I wanted to blaze through. I was prepared because I had been practicing this 10-minute set for months, and I knew that it was going to be a very important night. I bombed badly. Very badly. It was mortifying. I got on stage, my timing was off, my jokes fell flat, and it all fell apart at the seams. Upon realizing how quiet the room had become, I sped through the rest of my set and scurried off stage. I was too embarrassed to hang around afterward, and I was too humiliated to see the pity on the faces of all the people who had just watched me tank. My manager didn't know what to say because it was an embarrassment for him as well. He had spent the last 2 weeks inviting every industry person he knew to the show. Zach Galifianakis walked me to my hotel room that night. When we got to my room, he told me, "You're going to want to be alone for a while." This was at a time in my 20s when I needed other people to make me feel better when I was feeling bad. But there was no one who could do that. He was right. There was no one to call, and no one who was going to make me feel better. That night was one of the worst nights of my early adulthood. I sat in my room wondering what the hell I was going to do with my life. I had never felt so ashamed. How could I have blown such a big opportunity? How long would it take me to redeem myself? And how would that ever happen? How would that even happen? I didn't call anyone from my family, which I always did after a successful show. I sat alone, in shock, and cried like my life was ending before it had even begun. I had another show the next night, which went a lot better, but it didn't matter because no one from the industry came. My manager tried to round up some executives to give me another shot, but everyone had moved on to the next talent who had buzz around them. No one was interested in offering me a second chance, and I really couldn't blame them. The idea that so many people thought I was untalented made me physically ill. It was the first big professional failure of my career, and it hurt badly. When I got back to Los Angeles that Monday, my manager called and told me that Grace Wu from NBC hadn't been able to make the show in Montreal and was asking if I had any sets that week that she could see. Grace was the only top-level executive who hadn't been at my show in Montreal, and she wanted to see me perform. I called my friend Sam Brown and booked myself on a show for the very next night at a club called Luna Park. I crushed that show at Luna Park. I did the same exact set, and because I had nothing to lose, I was calm, secure, and my timing was on. The pressure was off, and I went up there and did my thing, and I did exactly what I had hoped to do at the festival 3 nights earlier. The next day, I got a call from my manager who told me NBC was making me an offer for a development deal for my own TV show, and I would be paid $100,000. When people say everything happens for a reason, I always think, what reason? Perhaps I needed a dose of humility. Perhaps it was a lesson in counting your chickens before they hatch. Who knows? What I do know is that at 25 years old, I had one of the worst sets and career lows of my life, and within 72 hours, everything had completely turned around. Suddenly, I was able to stop waitressing and start meeting with writers about my very own TV show. It took only 72 hours for every feeling I had in Montreal to be turned on its head and for the future to be bright again. I think of this moment often when things aren't going well or when a friend of mine is going through a tough time. So often we are ready to give up or throw in the towel when, right around the corner, there is a pocket of sunshine we hadn't known was headed straight for us. Even in my lowest moments, I keep my head geared toward the sky because I'm no longer in the business of missing rainbows. Everything can change in an instant, and more important, it doesn't matter how many people say no. All you need is one person to say yes.